But we want to talk about the Fed. Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren sat down with Yahoo Finance to give his read on the economy. Brian Chung did the interview, and he's right here on the couches. What did he say? And this is great in our ongoing series of talking to the various Fed presidents. And where do you rate sort of his influence right now on J-Powell?
Yeah, well, Eric Rosengren has been a dissenter on this current Fed. He is a voting member. He dissented against both Fed decisions this year to cut interest rates. And he said that right now I see things as pretty consistent with staying where we are. That was the words that he used verbatim. So that seems to hint that he doesn't seem to think another rate cut would be appropriate in the Fed's next meeting. That's in 2 weeks. But sat down with him at a conference which was called the House Divide. And he was actually talking about economic inequality and whether or not monetary policy can also do more to address that beyond just the headline of does the Fed lower or raise rates? And here's what he had to say.
So the typical monetary policy tool, which is changing interest rates, can't be targeted to specific parts of the country. So in terms of just general monetary policy, we probably can't. But in terms of, we do have a community development group that focuses on those parts of, for example, in Boston, the New England region, that's not performing nearly as well. So we are able to do that. And we also do a lot of research which can be used by branches of government that can do more targeted work, including at the state level, but also at the federal level.
Now, it was mentioned even just in the last panel that just wrapped up, Larry Summers talking about the idea that there's maybe a moral hazard with Fed policy because, raising wages in San Francisco might have a more aggregate impact than in West Virginia, say. So is there a way that the Federal Reserve can make sure that the impact of its policies, given what you just said, it's kind of difficult to do that, but make sure that the aspects of those policies are actually being transmitted across the country equally? So
we change interest rates, and those interest rates are national interest rates. We don't charge a different interest rate in San Francisco than West Virginia. Right. So in terms of the distributional elements, certain parts of the country are affected differently by higher interest rates. Okay. So if we raise interest rates, something like autos is not going to do nearly as well. So there are distributional effects of what we do, but our job really is to get it right for inflation and unemployment. And we have to leave to fiscal policy to get the distributional part of the equation right.
A sobering reminder that these Fed presidents are regional presidents. They see what happens in this case, New England, as the Boston Fed president was saying. And, this is kind of an interesting question. Each Fed president sees something different. So Eric Rosengren saying that in his district, at least, later on in the interview, we talked about how he didn't really see a lot of the issues with a recession, a lot of these recession indicators flashing or with the tariffs on those in New England. But that might not be the case in Minneapolis or in Dallas or whatever. Interesting because we'll have Neil Kashkari. I'll be interviewing him at AMS. That's this Thursday, so a little bit of a quick plug there. But, he's going to have a different perspective on all of this as well. So kind of something interesting to think about as we continue to talk about the Fed in the next coming weeks.
But did he pull back the curtain a little bit in terms of what's happening behind the scenes at the Fed? Because he's probably not going forward with, or not supporting another Fed cut. But are there others who would be interested in a cut? Or?
Yeah, I had the chance to ask him about how the divide on the committee's gotten really far. You have some that are calling for 50 basis points of cuts and then him calling for no cuts at all. And he said, look, that kind of debate is healthy and that we all have to debate it out. But at the same time, it shows that, look, we are free to express our viewpoints, and that's a good thing.
That's right. All right, good interview.
Thanks.